here. It is Lloyd Smith. He is completing the Engaging Humor Pact. This is level 2. Since level 1 and 2 of all 11 paths have the same required projects, this is actually his 3rd time doing this. And the project materials that are part of coaching and mentoring overlap, but not, while coaching can be part of mentoring, mentors are not necessarily coaches. That assertion comes from the basis of the project, and Lloyd has some thoughts about this validity. Lloyd Smith, and mentor, son of Alcimus.
Thank you, Jesse. All of you remember reading Homer's Odyssey, right? Don't like this. You need to do what you did in college. Just look thoughtful and nod every now and then, and I'll believe that you're actually paying attention and understand what I'm saying. So in Homer's Odyssey, just to refresh everybody's memory here, this is set in the Trojan War. And Odysseus, the title character of the book, had to head off to war. But he was worried because of his home situation. He was the wisest of the Greeks. He's the guy who invented the Trojan horse gimmick that eventually won the war for the Greeks. But anyway, he was worried about being away for so long because all the other Greeks thought it was going to be a quick war. You know, go over to Troy, kick some Troy rear end, and come right back home. But Odysseus knew that wasn't going to be the case. So before he left, he asked a friend of his, Alcimus, to watch over the home situation, particularly his son Telemachus, because Telemachus was coming of age and he knew he was going to be gone a long time. So Alcimus said, okay, and then he really didn't do anything. Now, that made me think a little bit about mentors and coaches. I've been involved in this mentor-coaching thing for most of my life. I've been a high school teacher, mentored some kids. I was a high school debate coach. I was mentored when I was in college. I was coached when I was a college debater. And I was puzzled when I read the material in that project. It says, mentors and coaches are often thought of as having similar roles. Pardon me. The two positions can overlap, but are actually very different. Coaching can be part of mentorship, but mentors are never coaches. Well, I think that's nonsensical. So that pretty much wraps it up. Well, I thought I really need to get some expert opinion on this. So this morning I spent about an hour on a Skype call with the second best debater I ever coached, who now lives in New Hampshire. And the guy's name is Kevin Paz. Those of you who've been in the club for a little while might remember Lee Paz. Lee is actually Kevin's aunt, but Kevin is 5 or 6 years older than Lee. It's kind of a complicated family. Rather than think about that, though, the reason I called him is that he graduated from high school in 1973. This is a long time ago. He's retired now in New Hampshire. He's a retired high school principal. He was also a high school debate coach, a very successful one in Oak Park, Illinois for about 10 years or so. So we had kind of parallel lives. He went to Princeton. He's the only Eastmont guy who ever went to Princeton. I helped a little bit, kind of, you know, showing him how to write or get recommendations and that sort of thing. So I asked him, are mentors and coaches different from one another? In other words, they overlap, but mentors are never coaches. And he said, no, that's nonsense. We talked about it for quite a while. And if you think about it, well, the more we talked about it, we realized that they were so intertwined, you probably cannot separate the two. It isn't just that they aren't really different at all. They're slightly different focus. Now, our friends in Toastmasters say that the differences are that coaches are responsible for providing the means of a protege to meet a goal, whereas mentors are responsible for supporting the protege as he or she works to accomplish a goal. Well, first of all, that isn't what any coach I ever had did, and it isn't what I did when I was coaching. Providing the means to give the team member, for lack of a better term, what he or she needs in order to achieve the goal. That really isn't the case. I always viewed coaching as enabling the team member to figure out what they need, what kind of support or encouragement or whatever they need. Our Toastmasters friends also say coaches provide specific feedback and direction on managing a single situation, whereas mentors provide general, non-judgmental feedback and support. There again, I don't think that's true. I don't believe most coaches provide feedback on a single situation. It's more of a developmental thing. You know, the idea behind coaching, the tricky part of it is figuring out who the people are who have the potential to do well, especially if it's a team situation, and then figure out what to do to enable them to do well. Now, it's true, there are some specific skills to teach, and I had to do that, but it was more like, you know, winding up the little toy and watching it walk away, although that's kind of an odd way to think about people, isn't it? Well, you didn't know some of the people I was working with. So. Finally here it says, yeah, you're laughing, I had to actually do it. It says here that coaches provide skill-specific involvement, whereas mentors provide personal involvement. I don't think that's true either. The coaches I had who I thought were the best and mentors I had all did both, you know, helped out in both situations. So what does this all mean? Well, I think about one of the first mentors I had was my college debate coach, Larry Kraft, sadly dead now. But he was an interesting guy because I was in college in the late 1960s when the world went a little bit crazy. And Larry was a very conservative guy, about 10 years older than we were at the time. And I'm afraid we did not make his life as easy or enjoyable as it might otherwise have been had he never met any of us. But he never gave up. He just kept trying to enable us and whatnot. And what he did was demonstrate to me something really tricky, and that is that you might not necessarily like the people you're working with very much, but that doesn't necessarily stop you from working with them, if you see what I mean. And so he slowly but steadily got us to grow up, I guess, is what it amounts to. And that was a tricky thing to do back then. One of the stupid slogans back then was never trust anybody over 30. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but I was dumb enough to actually say it at the time, along with lots of other people too. But I think, to sum this up, I have not done exactly what the project called for because this is the third time around on that. But I really think whoever wrote this is just flat dead wrong.